Wheat Ridge Planning Commission for December 18th, 2014. May I have a roll call of the members?
Ann Brinkman.
Present.
Alan Bucknam.
Present.
Steve Timms.
Here.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Emery Dorsey.
Here.
Amanda Weaver is absent. Donna Kimsey.
Here.
Thank you.
May we have a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have approval of the order of tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to approve tonight's order of the agenda.
Second.
Donna seconded it. Please vote.
Motion approved, 6-0.
Thank you. May I have approval of the minutes of December 4th, 2014?
I move to approve the minutes from December 4th.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0, with Commissioner Timms abstaining.
Thank you. Now is the time for public forum. This is the time for anyone to speak on a subject not appearing on tonight's agenda. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes, depending on how many of you want to talk. But is there anybody that signed up? There are not. Just checking. So not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Okay, then we will move from the public forum and we will move to the public hearing. First case is Case A, Resolution 04-2014, Second Amendment to the Wadsworth Boulevard Corridor Redevelopment Plan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Let me start my PowerPoint here. My name is Steve Art. I'm the Economic and Urban Renewal Manager here for the City of Wheat Ridge. We come before you tonight, and this is not the first time that I've come before you with a similar type item. This is for a modification of an urban renewal plan. This one is for the Wadsworth Corridor Urban Renewal Plan for a project at the southwest corner of 38th Avenue and Wadsworth Boulevard. We come tonight before you for approval that the development of this site conforms to the city's comp plan, and that's what we are discussing tonight. Once again, I'll repeat that to you. According to, up on your screen there, according to the Colorado revised statute, in order for us to start what is called TIF, tax increment financing, on this project tonight, the very first step that we need to do is to come to the Planning Commission with the project and stating that it conforms to the elements of the comp plan. Within the staff report that I gave you tonight are the elements of the comp plan that we believe this project adheres to. But before we do that, I'm certainly sure you and the members of our audience would like to see what the project looks like. Understand the project is still in its planning phases. It's still in the planning department, working on the circulation plan, on the concept plan. We've seen round one of the elevations. We're waiting for the next round of the elevations to come in. So what you're going to see tonight is substantially, as far as the layout of the buildings, is fairly accurate of what they will look like. As far as what the elevations look like, they are going to change some. We have asked them to beef up the elevations of the site right now. So tonight, again, we're coming before you with the modification of the plan, and the first thing to do is to make sure that it adheres to the elements of the comp plan. This is, and we gave this to you tonight before the meeting, this is kind of what the second modification says in its language, and really what this is saying is that this process will move on to City Council, and that we are confirming that it agrees with the comp plan of the City of Wheat Ridge, and that it will allow us, upon the City Council approving the substantial modification, that we would then be allowed to start the TIF clock, the tax increment financing, on the project, to allow to pay for the public infrastructures, understanding the obligation that we will be dedicating are only for public infrastructure. We're not giving anything to any businesses coming in. In fact, we're not even here to talk about any businesses coming in. We're not talking about any interior improvements to buildings. We're not going to fund refrigerators and furniture in buildings. What we're doing is, because this is a large development in the City of Wheat Ridge, it's going to have public improvements that need to be done on the site, including turn lanes, new bus loading zones for patrons, a walkability through the site, the parking lot, which will be used by not only the patrons of that shopping center, but I'm certainly sure other people will park in that parking lot at times. So it's all the public improvements, as well as The buildings have contamination in them, so we can include the contamination. They're also, the project proponents will tell you that they are overpaying for the piece of property there. As we well know, property owners are sometimes still living back in our 2005, 2006, when property values were extremely high, and suddenly don't realize that the value of land's probably dropped during our recession, and they're still asking very high prices. This developer thinks Wheat Ridge is worth taking a risk on, so they have overpaid for the land. We are allowed to use TIF financing to help them pay down the cost of that land. Looking at the specific project, as you all know, as I said, it's at the southwest corner of 38th Avenue and Wadsworth Boulevard. It is the former site of the Go Forward development. That was at the northwest, or really the northern portion of the project. That contains quite a few buildings. The Urban Renewal Authority actually purchased the building that I believe it's labeled 7690 on there. And about 2 weeks ago, we demolished that building. We are doing remediation on there. It was a previous dry cleaner site. We removed the building. We are now digging out contaminated dirt. We've injected about 27 barrels of a substance called Boss 100 to start remediate the site. We will additionally do about another 29 barrels on the site there, and hopefully we'll be able to get what's called a no action determination letter, which will allow the developer to then purchase that land from us and develop the remainder of a site. The property to the south, that is the vacant property. That was actually going to be, when Go Forward was going to expand at one time, that was going to be their new dealership. When the economy turned, they opted not to do that. So that property has remained empty. That is part of this project. It lays out, this is the northern portion where the buildings are currently located. So the developer will actually demolish all the buildings on the site there, get rid of all the asbestos in there. Hopefully there's no underground contamination of the site. Our preliminary evaluations have shown there is none, but you never know until you start turning over asphalt what's under that. They will develop these buildings in phases. The first phase will really be the corner of 38th and Wadsworth. That would be at the top right-hand side of the project. That will feature, understanding these are just blocks of buildings right now, at the hard corner right there will be a nice plaza that will actually project itself into the project. There'll be a barrier wall around that to protect the noise coming from 38th and Wadsworth on there. We don't know what that barrier will look like at this time, but it'll be a very nice sitting area. The project proponent would like to put in 2 nice restaurants there at the corner that then people would be able to go out to the patio and enjoy some nice formal dinners on there. Again, no users have been announced at the site. They do have a leasing agent out there actively marketing the site for them. This is the southern end of the site. So at the southern end of the site is anchored by a 41,000 square foot building that we anticipate to be a grocery store user. That sits in the back of the lot. And then to the southern end of it will be housing. We have been working with a housing developer, a local Denver housing developer, to build townhomes on the site. So these will be not rental properties. These will be for sale product on there. We think we're going to get somewhere between 26 to 32 units on there, just depending on how it sites on the project layout. So that does create a buffer between that neighborhood and the retail that goes in that will be located to the north. This is really how it now would look like. Just an artist sketch from the air. The large center store is the grocery user. To the left side is the residential, and then you have the outbuildings that were built in 3 phases along the project. Again, the bottom right-hand side will be built first, along with the grocery store. And we really think that this shopping center will fill very quickly, and that all the site will be built within, we would hope, within a 24-month period, or even sooner with that. Some elevations. As I said, these are the first elevations that we saw. Staff had comments. We met with the developer and their architects last week. We did have comments that got returned to them yesterday, so we will be having revised elevations here. But it is a very modern-looking center, but it also has the coloration that is of the Wheat Ridge motif. The blue lines that you see kind of running up the building will be lit at night, and they're very nice, soft neon light that will go up along the sides of the building. These are more fronts and rears of various buildings along there. You do see a stucco area in the front. That's normally will be for signage for the businesses in the shopping center. This is what the project in the first looked like from this. So this would be if you're standing in the middle of 38th and Wadsworth looking toward the project. That's the plaza there. Once again, we've asked them to beef that up. We didn't feel that was a real conducive corner. I'm not sure if any of us would want to go sit out on a patio that's directly on 38th and Wadsworth. It is kind of noisy, so the developer has agreed to come back. We're not sure right now if that'll be just a landscape buffer going up or that'll be a wall that then we can put some signage on, introducing the shopping center. We're working with the architect on that. And then the plaza does project itself farther into the shopping center also. So it'll be a nice real area for the community to sit down in the evening. We could bring out, some nice small bands out there and have some real community events in there. I believe that is that is my last slide that I have this evening. I won't go over specifically every single element that's in the staff report about how it conforms to the comp plan, but just let you know, everything that's in the red and the black in your staff report are elements directly from the comp plan. So they took language directly from the comp plan, and then everything in the red hasn't ever been changed. No language has been changed from the comp plan. If it's in the red, it means it adheres to the comp plan, at least in the developer's feeling. There are probably some other items on there that, since we've been talking with them, that are black now, that we probably could, especially about transportation, about transitions, they could probably adhere to it now. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. It's typically not a public hearing. I know it was listed on public hearings, but I think our urban renewal, as well as this planning commission, would like this to be as open process as possible. And I know there are members of the audience that are here tonight to speak on this project itself. But again, we are listening tonight to whether it conforms to the comp plan of the city. We're not talking about users. We're not talking about the site design and layout of it. We're talking about its conformance to the urban renewal plan. Same thing we did with the Kipling Ridge at Kipling and 38th Avenue. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions, Madam Chair, or excuse myself and let you take public comment.
No, I'm sure there's questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Buckman.
I'll hold off on any questions. I think some other commissioners might have better
Okay.
questions for me.
Okay. Commissioner Dorsey, you're up.
And I haven't anything right now.
Commissioner Kimsey.
Not at this time.
Commissioner Timms.
Just a question about process, please. So, City Council, we make a recommendation, correct? City Council then either approves that recommendation or modifies it or, I guess, rejects it. Is that correct for this?
So what you're doing tonight is, once again, affirming that it adheres to the comp plan of the city. If you approve that, I do a notification to the county and to all the affected agencies that will be affected by the tax increment financing. They have 30 days to respond. 30 days from that noticing date, so it'll be about the 26th of January, we'll take that, what is labeled there, the second modification to the Wadsworth Boulevard Corridor Redevelopment Plan. We'll take that to the City Council.
I
The
see.
City Council uses your resolution tonight as a comment,
Sure.
and they will either approve or deny the second modification. If they approve it, urban renewal can then enter into a tax increment financing
So,
agreement.
so the Urban Renewal Authority, have they voted yet, or they will, on whether or not to potentially approve TIF for this property?
They have not. They've only been presented with the project by the proponents, so they haven't. They're still evaluating. I was talking to Commissioner Ohm before the meeting. So the project provided us a pro forma, and the pro forma goes and talks about why they need this. It's the if not for the contribution, this public-private partnership, why this project doesn't work. And it really comes down to dollars. If the TIF is not done, it doesn't pencil out for them. I don't think any of us enter any sort of project. We don't go and buy a car that we can't afford. We make sure it fits in the budget. So they have the if not for. This is why they need the public participation. Out of that, we hired a third independent party to take their pro forma and review it for us. We're actually having our internal meeting with the executive director, who's the city manager, myself, community development, our financial consultant, and the third party who was hired to sit down to go over and say, are their numbers real? Is what they project, what they're paying for the land, does it justify the TIF that they will be asking for?
And what is the order of the review by the Urban Renewal Authority and City Council in terms of which comes first?
It doesn't really matter which comes first.
Okay.
Most likely, we will have the urban renewal meeting first, but they will not be able to sign the TIF agreement until such time as City Council approves the second modification. The second modification allows us to start the clock on TIF.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ohm.
Thank you. Please bear with me. I have several questions. So under, my understanding is under the heading conformance to comprehensive plan, the elements bold and in red will be advanced by the subject project. Does advanced mean conformity?
It will. So advanced means that it does conform to the comp plan.
So the reverse of that, so the elements not in red do not conform to the comprehensive plan.
Correct. The consultant and their advisor sat down and said, yeah, these probably aren't. A lot of them deal with the transit-oriented development, maybe not in this area.
And then the statement that there are some noteworthy new directions and slight changes. Could you
So
explain
that is language that is currently in our comp plan. So our comp plan was based upon the previous comp plan. They just built upon it. So what they were saying in that document is some of the concepts in the new comp plan are changes from the old one. It has nothing to do with this project specific.
Okay. Under structure plan, all primary corridors, what is the definition of multiple transportation modes?
So that's probably one, Commissioner, that they would agree that they are hitting them. That one was really more meant to be with our TOD site up at Ward Road. Multimodal would deal with the commuter rail that's coming through, then bicycling out there, then pedestrian cars. But certainly this project is going to enhance the multimodal. Bicycles will be able to be part of the project. The project is talking about putting some very high-tech bike racks in there. There'll be more walkability through the site there. We're going to be redoing the bus stop at 38th and Wadsworth, so those that would make the left turn from 38th onto southbound Wadsworth will no longer be held up by that bus that stops there every day.
So
There'll be a lane. There'll be a
that sounds
dedicated
like,
lane.
that sounds like multiple.
Yeah. You know, in hindsight, we probably should have read it that.
Okay. Under structure plan, all primary corridors, buildings adjacent to residential areas will transition down in height is not bold in red. My understanding is that the current zoning is mixed-use commercial. What are the building height limits and the upper story setbacks for mixed-use commercial in relation to residential development?
I would be happy to answer that. Meredith, if I'm incorrect with any of this, please chime in. If it was a true mixed use that they were putting retail on the first floor and residential above that, they could go as high as 5 stories. The height limit with no true mixed use would be 50 feet, 70 feet if they go with that traditional. This project is not really going to be that inner core mixed that you're seeing now in downtown along Broadway with the retail on the first floor and residential. It just doesn't pencil out in a project like this. But there are, as we said, there is an urban, a residential component at the south end that will buffer. So that part of the comp plan really meant that you would not want a single-story building, a single-story residential, and across the street that you put a 70-foot tall building. They would want that to step down and make it 70 feet interior, stepping down to single-story as you approach that residential component.
Okay. So it sounds like perhaps that could be bold and in red.
Only that they're all single-story buildings, so we didn't feel there was any stepping of the building, so it probably didn't need to be red.
Okay.
But it does conform, and it starts to talk about as it gets more toward the urban core, they would like to encourage height.
Okay.
Just doesn't pencil out to go anything above that.
And then under ELU 4.31, efficient use of limited land, why is D, promote shared parking or enact maximum parking standards for certain uses, not bold and red?
That line in the comp plan is really meant to be, when you get into true urbanism, that you take existing parking that's already there and you utilize that as shared parking. Yes, this will be shared parking in the fact that if you shop at the grocery store, you'll be able to stay in that lot and go over to the retail, probably can go to your residential property. But it really was meant for existing, that we would like to have other, as things get more dense, you encourage shared parking.
Okay.
And it was really meant for the TOD site.
Yeah, I just want to see if there's any opportunity for maximum parking standards so it's not over parked. That's why I bring that up. And then I just have one more question under CC 3.1, quality commercial mixed use development feature. Why is screen storage and service area not bold and in red?
That's a very good question. I looked at that. So all areas that like behind the grocery user will be screened all there. But I really think that was meant once again for the TOD projects, service areas. If there was be automobile repair, that we would screen off where people put the spare tires and things like this. But we are making them to the standards of all the outdoor storage that's usually behind the building will be screened.
Okay. And then why is, you mentioned plazas, and that wasn't in this document, I just saw that on the slides. Why is gathering spaces not bolded in red? And when I guess I'm trying to, I would think plazas could be a gathering space.
I think the comp plan more meant community halls, rec centers, areas like that, rather than outdoor. But we could probably make that a pinkish in there. Yeah, I would think the outdoor, we would hope that would be a gathering area for residents utilizing those, the shopping, the smaller spaces.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you very much.
So I guess it's my turn, unless, are you ready now?
Yeah, I have
Okay,
one more question.
Commissioner Buckman.
Thank you. You mentioned that a portion of the TIF would be allowed to pay down the cost of the land.
Correct.
Would that be paid directly to the developer, or would it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The developer is buying the land directly from the current landowners, of which there are, including the Urban Renewal Authority 4 owners.
Okay. How much of that TIF, just in terms of a percentage, is going to that property value remediation?
I don't have that number directly with me. The project proponent is here. Bob, do you happen to know what that percentage? It's not a large percentage. Most of it is the undergrounding. You're talking about a very old site there that has very poor drainage. The empty lot has no water to it, no sewer like that. So I don't know what the exact number is, but a large percentage is going for the physical improvements there rather than paying back for that land.
Okay. And just speaking really quickly to public improvements, will there be any, I didn't, it was hard to tell in that very sort of broad conceptual site plan that you presented. Is there any city right-of-way that's being planned for the development, you know, a 36th Avenue or place connecting to Yukon or anything like that, or is that going to be entirely private circulation within that?
Interior, it'll be all private circulation, but the main entrance to it that will be at 36th Avenue into there, they're building to city standards. But the project wanted to have control of it because when it snows out, our snow sweepers won't make that one their top priority, where this development would want them, the users would want to have their snow cleared right away. So they agreed that we will build it to city standards. It will look like a city street, but we will maintain it. So we've agreed to that. There are some right-of-ways on Wadsworth and 38th Avenue that will be dedicated, but interior to the site, which is what I think you mean, those will all be controlled by this developer. This developer does not sell their product. They have a history of maintaining their product, so they aren't going to sell off piece by piece and then say that's not our responsibility. We've looked at their track record. They hold on to their pieces and they maintain their pieces very well.
Okay. Just one more thing on the structure plan under corridors and gateways, referencing chapter 3, page 24. You had here in the packet, bolded in red, that primary corridors, that they would accommodate multiple transportation modes and exemplify high quality urban design and appearance over time with regards to the properties that would be developed there. The materials that I saw in those elevations don't really scream high quality to me in terms of appearance. Is that have you guys addressed the quality of appearance issue with the developer? And I know this is kind of early because we're not talking specific development plan or anything yet.
Right. And I'd be happy to answer that. I think staff would agree in many elements, which is why we sat down with them and said we'd like to see less ephes on there, a little more brick, a little more
Articulation.
Thank you very much. A little more articulation of the buildings in there, so the developer will come back there. I can guarantee staff, we have said to our community, we have said to our Urban Renewal Board that this will be a very quality product. So we anticipate that the developer will be coming back to us and the architects with enhanced. We anticipate seeing that sometime next week, hopefully.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Dorsey, before I start my questions.
You go ahead and start.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a couple questions here. The first question, starting right out the block, what was our legal counsel's reasoning for why we have to hear this case?
So it really came down to the finding by the state auditor that said anytime TIF is, let me back up a little. When we first formed our urban renewal plan, and we have 5 urban renewal plans, when we started all of them, we formed the plan, but we didn't start the clock on those. And the clock is a 25-year period that we're allowed to collect TIF. We were going to come back parcel by parcel as projects come aboard. So anytime, traditionally, We did Perrins Row about 2 years ago. That's the housing project at 38th and Chase. That did not come to you because at that time our council said it's not that large of a TIF in there. It was only about $300,000 that we considered a substantial modification to the plan. Since then, the state auditor has said, look, at any time you're going to use 1 penny on a project in an urban renewal authority, that requires you, if you haven't started the clock, that it's called a substantial modification. So from this moment forward, any urban renewal project that we're going to do, that we're going to offer TIF, I'm going to be back here at this podium, and we're going to be doing a substantial modification on that. So it was based upon, and this would have sparked it, even if the state auditor would not have done this. This is a large enough project that we would have been coming before you. Same thing we did for the Kipling Ridge project at 38th and Kipling.
Okay, thank you. And then in the comments before we actually get to the red section, again, or in one of these, in yours, it said, the authority recommended the city council give notice and hold the necessary public hearing to consider tax increment financing relating to property tax and sales tax. So how is this TIF impacting the property tax and sales tax on that property?
I would be happy to answer that, but again, tonight we're talking about does it conform to the comp plan, but I'd be happy to talk to you. So this will be a public hearing before the city council. So the city council will actually approve this second modification. So as TIF works in the state of Colorado, how it will affect, it really won't have any effect upon the community as far as taking revenues away. Right now we have pretty much an empty piece, we do have an empty piece of land sitting there, 30th and Wadsworth. It is collecting 0 sales tax right now that is flowing into the city. It is doing minimal property tax that is coming into the city. And as anyone knows, our mill levy in the city of Wheat Ridge is one of the lowest in the states. So we're getting very little anything. We're not generating anything from that property. TIF will allow us then, once the project is built, it will now start collecting sales tax. Normally you set a base level, but the base level is 0 because there's no sales tax coming from the property right now. So all that sales tax will flow back to the Urban Renewal Authority. We will not dedicate 100% of that sales tax back to the project. That's the TIF. That's the tax increment financing. That will flow back to the project to help pay for that infrastructure. Plus, the property tax is going to increase. The base stays the same, so that's what we're collecting now. All those taxing agencies and entities that get their money, the school district, the county, the fire district, and all that, will still receive those monies. The increment above that will flow back to the Urban Renewal Authority, and we can, once again, dedicate a portion or all of that back to the project. Plus, those taxing agencies at the beginning do get about a 2% increase per year, so they do get more. So ultimately, we're giving up a little money right now at the beginning to help pay for this infrastructure. But in the long run, after it's paid off, we think under 10 years, all that money will start flowing back to the city in the general fund.
And do you picture or envision that we would utilize the full 25 years?
No. It's not going to take us anywhere near 25 years. If the project performa and the project does what the developer says, we think we can probably pay it off in, don't hold it, 10 years or less if we obligate more to it. The remainder of it will come back to the Urban Renewal Authority. We will most likely opt in to give that back to the city.
The city? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then a couple areas in red that I just had questions on, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
I'm going to go grab my water while you're talking.
Yeah, grab some water. So I have to tell you, when I first saw all the red, I thought that somebody went a little color happy, because it seemed like this project was everything since sliced bread. So I just have a couple questions, just like Commissioner Ohm. So under ELU 2.3, rehabilitate underutilized retail spaces, item E, identify community needs and opportunities to capture retail leakage. Now, to me, retail leakage is to meet a need that's currently not met within the city. So if we're talking about Wheat Ridge, we're talking about clothing stores or furniture stores or anything else like that. Is that how you define retail leakage?
You can define it in many different ways. That is one way. It could also be if you have restaurants and people are going out of your town to shop, to eat in other restaurants.
Got it.
But it could, and it doesn't say this project may attract a furniture store there. It may attract those other, it'd be nice if we could get somewhere that we could get clothing in there.
Okay.
Nice boutique.
Okay, thank you. And then the other, I'm now moving on. So I'm having a hard time understanding how this property becomes a neighborhood buffer area. I mean, it's one big swath of land. It's right on Wadsworth. There's no buffer. Other than it's not a buffer area between a large retail and a neighborhood. It is the retail.
I would probably agree with you that the land as it currently sits vacant right now is a buffer between that neighborhood. But certainly by developing it, it creates additional buffering to the neighborhood.
Noise abatement is what I see it as.
Madam Chair, you may be correct in there, but
Okay.
once again, that's language from the comp plan. That's not language specific to this development.
But
They feel they will be a nice buffer between the neighborhood and Wadsworth Boulevard and the heavy traffic.
understood. But since it's highlighted in red, it indicates that the developer believes that this will be an amenity from the comp plan. This development will be a neighborhood buffer.
And I think they would agree. I think the residents in that neighborhood right now, if they want to go shopping for groceries, most likely probably hop in their car
Okay.
and go over there. This will give them ability to walk to the center, have a cup of coffee, maybe a meal, go shopping in the restaurant. And if the residential project comes in, that will also be a buffer.
Okay. Another question, goal number NH also under neighborhood development. Stimulate investment and redevelopment in neighborhood buffer areas. It talks about rehabilitating multifamily properties. There is no rehabilitation of multifamily properties on here because there are no multifamily properties.
So here's the opportunity. There are those apartments that are right on Yukon Court there.
Yeah.
We're not going to give away the 100% of that TIF, as I said, back to the development. Maybe there's an opportunity for the Urban Renewal Authority to take that remaining funds that are in there and help do a facelift to those multifamily apartments there.
Okay.
Not saying that's what we will do, but that's why you never give 100% back to the project, because there may be other projects within a block or so that are too small to do TIF, but you want to do a facelift to bring them up to the quality of what we think the center will be.
Okay. And then I just have a general question about the property itself. The water table on that property is very high. There is the wetlands, retention area, detention area to the west. I couldn't figure out on your pictures, if you don't mind going back to your pictures, where that still exists and if it's going to exist.
I will try to get back to my pictures, Madam Chair. So it's going to be, you're probably talking that one there. So behind the grocery store user, so that'll be at the top of the picture, there is that current big wetlands area there that's probably about 20, 30 feet deep. That will remain.
Okay.
So that does not go away. That cannot go away. We would love for it to go away, but that is where a lot of the water will run off in there. There are mines greater than ours who have done water surveys out on there, and the project can be built there that will not affect any of the water tables, will not cause any of the residents who live back on the back streets to flood anymore.
Or the
anything
east.
like that.
Or the east.
Or the east. In fact, they're going to be, the water traditionally will flow to the north, so that'll be to the right-hand side of that picture. They will actually take the water that flows to the north and pump it back into that swale there.
Okay.
That's done there. So that was designed for that use. It was designed for when the car dealership, which is a lot more impervious surface than this shopping center, for all that water to flow in there and to protect that neighborhood.
And there was, if you look at the picture you have up now, if you look at the bottom left, at the time, the previous the dealership was pumping water off. They were to dry the property, illegally putting it into the sewer. So we want to just make sure that they don't continue to pump dry the water and dump it into the sewer. So
Well, they will have a whole.
The city locked the pump.
Well, I can't talk about the previous user, but
Yeah.
one of the requirements of this project is they will have what's called a stormwater management plan that will be during construction. You know, whenever you go around a new development, they have the straw around there to control that. Plus, there will be a water management plan that will be approved here within the city and by the state that will talk about what happens with all the water that flows on the site. Grease separators, because cars on parking lots drip oil. Water gets in there, they go into the receptor. You then have things that collect that oil. It has to be cleaned out at a certain time. That is all part of this management plan that they will submit to the city. And once again, that is not my field of expertise, so
I
that's
get
where I
it.
will stop.
I get it. It's not mine either. It's just, it's actually the existing water on the site. I'm not talking about water that lands on it. It's the existing water since the high table. So my question, I guess, is, this will go through the normal reviews with public, or public?
100%.
Okay,
No, this is to be like the Kipling Ridge project, or to be like 44th and Watts. Every project, even down to single residential, will have to conform to the standards. And because this is a 14-acre project, their standards are even higher than a small, less than 5,000 square feet, I believe it is, development. Yeah.
cool. Okay, I'm done. Do any of my, thank you. Wait,
would be at my
don't go
seat if
away,
you have any.
don't go away. Do any commissioners have any follow-up?
I just wanted to find out, Art, what is the dollar amount of the TIF that we're looking at?
That number has not been determined yet. At this point, I would like to keep that. That will be of the purview of the city council and of the Urban Renewal Authority. It'll be upwards in the $6-7 million range that will have to be into this project. But you're talking a project that is going to cost in the range of $25 million. So it'll be a hefty TIF, but it's that if not for. And it will bring some great services here to the citizens in all the outbuildings in the residential that'll come in.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now, yeah. So now is the time for public comment. So a couple of the ground rules here, folks. We have two? Yeah. I'll check. So here are the ground rules. When you're speaking to the commission. You're not speaking to necessarily the property owner or to Mr. Arndt, who presented. You're speaking to the commission and you're raising your concerns to the commission or your questions or whatever, because we have a chance to go back and ask the questions that you're asking us. So we're going to be busily writing down your concerns or questions. If somebody before you has raised the question or concern or the comment or the approval that you have and you don't wish to speak, you can stand up. I'll read out your name that's on here. You can stand up and say, I concur with the previous speaker, or you can come on up. It's your right as a citizen. It's fine, okay? I'm going to read the names that are on here first. Then we have a couple on another sheet that may have signed the wrong sheet, so we'll check on those because we have another case tonight. This is not the only case. And then I'll ask if anybody in the audience wishes to speak as well. I would ask to be respectful for everybody, that you try to limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. I don't think that's asking a lot. I've talked longer right here from 3 to 5 minutes. So last question, please put your phones on mute. Please, I ask that you not make comments from the audience while somebody else is speaking. I ask you to respect their views and their questions. And with that, I'm going to get started. And at the end, after you speak, the commission might have a question for you. So don't just run off. We might have a question, we may not. That doesn't mean that we don't listen to you. We understand what you're saying. So the first person is Thomas Lundy, 3500 Allison Street. Come on up. And you're probably going to have to move up or down the microphone and make sure not to turn it off when you move it up or down. And last rule, sorry. First name, last name, spell your last name for the record, and your address. Thank you.
Hello, it's Thomas Lundy, Lundy, 3500 Allison Street. So it's nice to see everybody here a week before Christmas and in the middle of Hanukkah, so that's dedication. But members of the Wheat Ridge Planning Commission, I was surprised to see the claims advanced in the proposed Second Amendment to the envisioned Wheat Ridge Plan with regard to the proposed development at the southwest corner of 38th and Wadsworth. I will do my best to rebut them in the time allotted to me this evening. It is my earnest hope that my doing so will persuade you, the Wheat Ridge Planning Commission, to reject the proposed amendment to the Wadsworth Boulevard Corridor Redevelopment Plan. To begin, I would ask the board to recall the comments made by the public at the Urban Renewal meeting of November 20th. The proposed development was denounced as outdated in concept, more along the lines of a 1990s strip mall, an uncreative response response to the latitude granted to developers under the City of Wheat Ridge permissive and progressive mixed zoning use regulations, uninspired in designs, a means to bring a Walmart neighborhood grocery to Wheat Ridge, which is sort of an open secret, marred by insufficient articulation with RTD. I mean, one extra turn or eliminated from the bus route is not a tremendous amount of articulation with RTD. The development was unbalanced with regard to the phase development by leaving all residential construction until the last phase. Nothing like a proper walkable city center. And we had some people comment that its being created would be a reason not to locate to Wheat Ridge, and the project itself was unworthy of TIF report. I would further urge the board to recall the comments made by the members of the Urban Renewal to the effect that the design elements of the proposed plan, signage, building, facades, etc., complied with the requirements of the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan, but only technically and minimally. And I'd also ask you to recall your own misgivings that you expressed here about certain rather overinflated claims and rather underwhelming performance on specifics. These criticisms were entirely apt and accurate on November 20, as they are now, and taken together, they serve to refute the claims made in the proposed amendment and thereby negate the logic for adopting it. To address specific points, the developer claims that this project has the potential of creating 250 permanent jobs. Even granted this number, one must ask, what sort of jobs? I can't imagine how the vast majority of the jobs will not be low-wage retail and food service jobs, and remember the Walmart component. I'm also confident that much more, so much more, could be accomplished under the current Wheat Ridge mixed-use regulations, given a creative effort. But once the land is developed and the TIF granted, that opportunity has vanished. As far as disputing the subject, that the fact or the contention that the subject project serves to advance specific elements of the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan, I will consider a number of these in the sequence that they are presented in the proposed amendment, noting that the sequence conforms with the sequence of chapters in the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan document. So, starting with building on previous planning efforts, chapter 1 and 2, or chapter 1, page 2 and 3. The subject project can be described as unimaginative, dated, lackluster, certainly not as an example of quality development and redevelopment. How can it be argued that the subject project will preserve and enhance Wheat Ridge neighborhoods? At best, it might make money for the developers and current landowners. Given the timing of the plan, I cannot see it as a focus on increasing housing options to attract a range of household types, just because A, that development is slated for the last part of the development, and B, it's given the overemphasis of an outdated strip mall mix of businesses, it cannot be regarded as an effort to prioritize the redevelopment of key commercial areas. We have plenty of little coffee shops. We have a lot of grocery stores in Wheat Ridge. I mean, all of them. We almost have a complete set there. An unimaginative, dated, lackluster plan, such as the subject plan, can hardly be expected to enhance community character and gateways. If it is thought that the subject plan will develop a town center, then the same could be said of the current development on the northeast corner of Wadsworth and 38th. If you look at the proposals, that which we've actually been shown, we have just large parking expanses labeled as plazas and gathering spaces. It simply isn't what is meant by, I would assume is not what was meant in the original vision for Wheat Ridge in the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan. Furthermore, the subject plan contains no features that indicate any particular emphasis on sustainability, nor any focus on transportation network connection and increasing multimodal options. Those presents are in fact notably overwhelming, or in a truth, sort of trivial. I mean, yes, it will be a place one can ride one's bicycle to if one is so disposed, and ride one's bicycle away if one is equally so disposed. So I don't see how any of those stand scrutiny. Key values, that's the next section, chapter 2. Given what has been noted before, it's difficult for me to imagine how the subject plan might serve to create a resilient local economy based on a balanced mix of land use, or promote vibrant neighborhoods and array of housing options, given the vagueness even, or enhance community character and accentuate quality design. You yourself have raised questions about this, and it's all up in the air right now. There's been, as far as I can see, no substantial effort to increase transportation connections and options, or ensure a sustainable future. There's nothing sustainable in the project, in the plans that I've seen so far, and the stuff that we've actually been submitted. And as I said, the subject project is essentially a 1990s mall with some unspecified housing elements to be added at a later date. Structure plan, corridors, and gateways. As I said, can anyone who has examined the subject plan claim it to exemplify high-quality urban design and appearance? And given the unspoken intention to include a Walmart store in the proposed set of tenants, how can one imagine that a subject project will help the city focus on retaining existing business when, in fact, it's the stated corporate policy of the Walmart to drive all its competitors out of business and to use whatever means it can come to hand to do so? And there are plenty of existing grocery stores in Wheat Ridge. And so it goes on and on. By virtue of the points I've already raised, it can be demonstrated, to my satisfaction at least, that every claim made for the subject project, as this project is presently constituted, is either not exactly true, or true as a technicality, or minimally true, or trivially true, or obliquely true, or perhaps could be true eventually, but not with any certainty, especially if TIF financing is approved. But the costs of granting a TIF to the project are clear, present, and undeniable. I mean, we're all here because of our affection for the city of Wheat Ridge. We are all residents of Wheat Ridge. Some of us are natives of Wheat Ridge or have lived here for many decades. We all wish to see Wheat Ridge grow and prosper. None of us are opposed or opponents of development per se. But the subject project, as it is currently constituted, is not what Wheat Ridge needs right now. Given the best estimate of time horizon for retail projects, that being somewhere around 2 years right now, Wheat Ridge would be better served by refusing this project, even given the current pressing need for sales tax. Moreover, the claim that the subject project conforms to the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan in any real, substantial sense, or even more, that enhances the vision set forth in this plan, is to say that the envisioned Wheat Ridge plan is but a massive verbiage decorating a very low bar indeed. I feel pride in Wheat Ridge. I am not afraid to state that we deserve better. And this is why I'm urging you to reject the proposed Second Amendment to the Wadsworth Boulevard corridor redevelopment plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Next person on the list, Maureen Daly, 3620 Otis. If you could give your name, spell your last name, and give your address. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Maureen Daly, D-A-L-Y, and I reside at 3620 Otis. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I think Tom has done a tremendously good job at articulating concerns that I also have. As I was reading through the document this afternoon, late this afternoon, and looked at the benefits in red that this project will have to the community, I have to say, in my opinion, it's just not believable. Many of the things that were listed. To preserve and enhance neighborhoods, I don't see Walmart doing that. To develop a town center, I think it's actually going to do the opposite and harm what's trying to be done on 38th Avenue. I think it'll drive new businesses away. Another thing, it said it will retain existing businesses. I, like Tom, I'm worried about Safeway, and you know, I don't think this will help Safeway. I don't think it'll help the new Sprouts. It's going up on Kipling. Re-energize communities. I think it's going to deflate communities. If you've driven around, you've probably seen a lot of the anti-Walmart signs. People don't want this here. We have several Walmarts within a small radius already. My other fears are that it's going to bring down property values. We're seeing property values go up in Wheat Ridge, and you know, I just don't think this is going to I think this is going to have the reverse effect. And lastly, I am worried about even increasing traffic more, particularly given the road diet already on 38th. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Nope. Thank you very much. The next person, I apologize if I misspell your name. Louise A. on up. Okay, could you spell your last name? Thank you. At 3055 Webster. Thank you. Next person on the list is Charlie Myers, 3620 Otis Street. Thank you. The next person on the list is Mary Drobnik. Thank you. So these are two names that were on the other sheet. Now, you may have just signed the wrong sheet, so we're just checking. Benjamin Kaplan? The applicant. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, and Joseph Buckholtz? Did you intend to sign the case we're hearing now, or the? You signed the wrong. Do you want to come up and speak?
No, it's okay. I also agree with what was said tonight.
Okay. Okay, 3690 Chase Street. Okay. So if there's any, thank you. You sure you don't want to speak? Come on up. Oh, don't worry about it. We don't like them either. So if you could give your name, spell your last name, and give your address before.
My name is Joseph Buckles. It's Buchholz.
Thank you.
And I live at 3690 Chase Street.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm pretty much responsible for handing out a lot of the.
Raise your mic.
Sorry. I'm pretty much responsible for handing out a lot of the anti-Walmart signs. And my point on that is I have talked about 250 people basically since I started. So a lot of people aren't home, and they request signs, so I just leave them and go. But I've talked to Republicans, talked to Democrats, I've talked to liberals, and I've even talked to Tea Party people. And the general consensus is that a lot of them, they actually shop, some of them shop at Walmart, and that's their God-given right, As Americans, I personally don't like Walmart, but that's just my point of view. But I've talked to all these individuals, and none of them want another Walmart. They just don't. They don't want another Walmart in the area. So it's a large swath of individuals that I'm representing here tonight. And I'm being honest about that. I've only talked to two people that were in favor of it, and one was, she was like 76 years old, which is fine because I'm 64. But my point is she could walk up to Walmart, and that's what, and if she couldn't, she doesn't drive. And that was about the only person I actually talked to that wanted yet another Walmart in the area. So, in fact, I live right across the street from the Bandemiers, and they're a very conservative family, and John and Lorraine, and they're really good people, but they don't want a Walmart, not another one. And I think they shop at Walmart, but they do not want a Walmart on 38th Avenue. And, that's all I have to say. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody that has not signed up on the list that after hearing everybody's comments, you're interested in speaking? Come on up, please. I think you know the drill. First, give your name, spell your last name. Thank you. And you're going to have to lift that for you.
My name's Rob Cobb, last name's C-O-B-B. I'm at 3600 Garrison. I agree with the speakers here in the rejection of the proposal. I guess my thought is it's less about the Walmart aspect. It's more about the step seems progressive and not progressive, which is what I think. I think Wheat Ridge has an opportunity with this large swath of land to make a progressive and make a statement with the development. And what we're doing here is basically doing a cookie cutter, same thing everybody else does. And I think it's an opportunity for Wheat Ridge to say, we're a little different. We can do things a little differently here. We can have something that is going to identify us in the community, in the region, with a change in the status quo. And I think that's something that Wheat Ridge can hang its hat on, because we're trying to identify ourselves in the community, in the region, as a community that I purposely chose to live here 3 years ago and start my family here because of its vicinity. There's certain characteristics about the community that I like, and I think with this development, you have an opportunity to take some steps to make that differentiation. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay. So I will close the public portion of this. And I will ask, do we have any questions? Any more questions from staff? I do.
I do as well.
You.
Steve, just a question on the phasing aspect of this. What happens if a developer that's participating in this project doesn't complete the phasing? For example, if, say, 2/3 of it gets done, but the housing component doesn't, how does that impact distribution of TIF? How does that impact, for example, if there's as you say, a smaller percentage of that money going for property value remediation, but they end up not taking advantage of developing a portion of it? How does that all work out?
What you're really asking is how does it affect the taxpayers at the end of the day? Which
Yeah.
Very valid question. Let me hark back to the 38th and Kipling project. We provided TIF. That was a different TIF. We actually physically went out to a bank and received a loan, the Urban Renewal Authority. So we're paying the developer for the infrastructure at that site too. If the TIF doesn't meet to pay back the loan, the debt servicing, twice a year we pay about a $40,000 payment to them. If we don't create enough revenue from that, the city council will have to take some of the general fund to put in there to pay back that. This project is really different. This even puts the people at less risk. What the developer will do is when they finish the entire project, they will go out and the Urban Renewal Authority, working with the developer, will sell bonds on the open market. So private individuals will buy the bonds. We'll get a lower interest rate because the project will be done. There'll be tenants in there. There'll be cash flow coming through there. We will then obligate the TIF to pay back those people. They get a percentage for buying the bonds, just like a bank would get interest for doing that. If the project does not create enough revenue to pay those bonds, we're not obligated to give them any money out of our general fund. We're not obligated to give them additional TIF from somewhere else. That's the risk that the bond buyer will take for buying those bonds. So really, this is a less risky project for the city than the 38, of which no one stood up at the public comment section and was against that project. Once again, I will remind you tonight, we're here not talking about users on a site. We're not talking about layout. We're talking about conformance to the comp plan.
I have one other question. Just to understand, and I realize the comp plan talks about building something that's sustainable, and sustainable to me means property taxes and retail tax. So on the housing part, which is what we've heard is the final phase, but you didn't present that, somebody in the audience did. For that piece of it, once those are built, will we recoup property tax, individual property taxes for those?
Yes, we will. Right now, that land, I don't know what the property tax there is on that empty lot there. $13,000, I think.
Oh.
$20,000 for the entire 9 acres of that. The housing portion will take about 2 acres. So if you do the math, it's not throwing off very much at all right now. But once those properties are done, they'll be assessed like a single-family residential unit.
Each one?
Each individual one, because it's not an apartment complex.
They're being sold, each individual will be paying property taxes in.
This developer builds townhomes. They don't build for rental properties. Okay. They build townhomes. So these will be sold. They will be plotted as separate lots, yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Commissioner Timms?
Since we're not here to talk about site layout, I will withhold my question. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff?
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Dorsey?
Why is the housing portion of this going to be the last part to be developed?
It may not be. We would hope the housing developer would take it immediately. I think it was originally listed as phase 3 because that whole southern portion of the project, the developer didn't quite know what they wanted to do with it. They knew that northern end, how that worked in. They knew the grocery store wanted their lot. They weren't sure what that south end wanted to be. So they always said it was going to be phase 3. The housing developer would like to take all of that, all the frontage, all the way up to Wadsworth. The developer would like to see the frontage along Wadsworth be office building, maybe restaurant. They're not, because you got residential there at 35th. It doesn't quite know what it wants to be right there right now. It is only a 14-acre site. One of our people spoke tonight. They want something new, and people say they want it to be Belmar-ish like. Belmar's 80 acres. This is 14 acres. Boy, you can't fit a lot of stuff onto a 14-acre site. In today's reality, people drive cars. I'm sure everyone took their car here tonight and parked in our parking lot. People need places to park. Yes, we would love to have 100% building there and a 10-story parking structure, but it just, in reality, doesn't work. You need to park a site like this. So there has to be that parking element of it. Our job as staff is to try to internalize it. It's mixed-use commercial right now. The site meets all the frontages to the mixed-use development. So it really does what the plan says it should do.
Madam Chair, I do have a
Go ahead.
question. So I won't bring up site plan, but I will bring up uses. So 38th and Kipling, right? There was an amendment or there was a
Same exact
plan,
process.
right?
Same exact
That particular mix of uses included some type of grocery store, some type of multi-tenant retail, and I believe a senior housing component, right?
Exactly.
So
right.
similar type of component is what you're saying is here. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, members of the commission.
Thank you. So I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going to treat this like a normal case, so I'm going to close the public hearing, even though this isn't really a public hearing, right? Closing the public hearing. And now it's time, what is this? Resolution. So here's the way it's going to work. We'll have a recommended motion, we'll have a second, then we'll have discussion, and then we will vote. Okay? So motion, second, either way, motion, second, discussion, vote. So I'm looking for a motion. I can't make it.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion then. I will move to adopt the resolution 03-2014.
That's 04. The recommend.
I believe Kim was it not incorrect in the
4.
staff report? It is 04.
Correct.
It is, okay, apologize. I'll redo that. I move to adopt resolution 04-2014, finding the second amendment to the Wadsworth Boulevard Corridor Redevelopment Plan for the southwest corner of 38th Avenue and Wadsworth Boulevard is in conformance with the Wheat Ridge Comprehensive Plan entitled Envision Wheat Ridge.
Second motion.
Okay, now discussion.
I have a point.
Point.
This is, since we are not talking about specific plan at this point, and I have some issues with potential plans down the road, but since that's not what we're looking at right here, I'm obviously in favor of the motion because I seconded it, but I do have some concerns down the road when we get to talking about site plan, about under those key values points that were raised both by some of us up here and by some of the public who commented about whether we're actually increasing transportation connections, whether we are actually enhancing community character and accentuating quality design, what specifically an array of housing options means. And when we talk about local economy, what does that mean? Does it mean preserving small businesses? Does it mean simply building an employment base? I think there are valid points to be made on both sides, but those are things that I would like the applicant and the renewal authority to consider after we move past this point.
Thank you. Anybody else have any points? I do. I will be voting no on this, and only not because of who may go in there. This is the first time I've ever received a packet where everything was too nebulous. There wasn't enough information given about the property other than some slides that we saw that weren't even in our packet per se. I don't feel I have enough information with just the red area to prove to me that the property and the plan meets the comprehensive plan. I just don't have enough information. Let me be adamant, this is not because of the possible uses, but I've got to vote no. I'm sorry. So that's my reasoning. Anybody else? Okay.
I will also be voting no. There were a lot of points that I felt the applicant could have addressed and in bold and red, and they were not.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, please vote. Okay, so we have another case tonight, everybody in the audience. If you're going to stick around, it's a riveting case. Feel free. All cases in Wheat Ridge are important, so this is important. Otherwise, please be quiet as you're exiting. Please. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, I am Sarah White. I'm a planner with the City Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. Tonight I am presenting case number WZ1411, which is a request for approval of a zone change from restricted commercial to mixed-use neighborhood on property at 4295 Harlan Street. I'd like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation. This property is within the City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met, and therefore the Planning Commission does have jurisdiction to hear this case. The subject property is outlined here in bright blue. It is located on the east side of the city on Harlan Street. North is to the top, and you can see the property is near the intersection of Harlan and 43rd Avenue. 44th Avenue is just to the north, just beyond the extents of this image. The parcel is just over 9,000 square feet in size and is rectangular in shape with no irregularities as far as shape or topography. The width of frontage along Harlan Street is approximately 70 feet. The current zoning on the property is restricted to commercial, and it is largely surrounded by a variety of commercial and residential properties. The light orange color you see indicates the restricted commercial zoning. In the immediate vicinity to the north, northeast, and south are all RC, consisting of businesses such as chiropractors, office buildings, electricians. To the west is R2 used as single-family home. To the southeast is zoned R3 single-family homes. And also in the nearby vicinity, you can see a couple of properties that have been recently rezoned to MUN. I do have a few pictures of the property. The primary structure was built as a single-family home in 1951. It was converted to a commercial use at some point, though specific information on that could not be identified. The most recent use for the property was a spa and skincare business that maintained much of the interior residential character. There's no existing commercial signage on the property, though the majority of the front yard has been paved for commercial use parking. This is an image of across Harlan Street south of 43rd, zoned residential and currently used for single-family homes. This is an image of properties to the north. Though they are used commercially, many still maintain a residential look from the outside. The applicant has purchased the property with the intention of using it as a single-family home, which it was built as in 1951. The purpose of the zone change request is to expand possible uses to include the option of converting the structure back to residential occupancy. This slide shows how we treat residential uses in commercial zone districts, including in RC. An existing residence can remain residential or convert to a commercial use. For an existing commercial use, such as the subject site, you cannot change or revert back to a residence. In this case, the applicant is seeking to convert the property entirely back to a residential use. Because this isn't permitted under RC, the applicant is proposing to rezone the property to mixed-use neighborhood. MUN is very similar to the RC zone district. Both allow limited range of neighborhood-serving businesses, and both are intended for neighborhood main streets. The key difference relates to the treatment of residential uses, in that MUN allows not only new commercial uses, but also new residential uses, or a mix of the two. At this time, the applicant is not proposing any new development. The reason for the request is simply to allow residential use of the existing structure. This table, however, compares the proposed and existing standards that would apply if the property were to redevelop in the future. As I mentioned, the two districts are very similar. Similar architectural standards for both, with requirements related to materials, variation, and transparency. The only difference being under NC, those standards come from the Architectural Site Design Manual. In the proposed zoning, those standards would be dictated by the mixed-use zoning code. Maximum building heights are the same, build-to requirements are the same. Setbacks are nearly the same. Under the current zoning, the side setbacks depend on the building material. Rear setbacks are increased under both zone districts because of adjacent residentially zoned properties. The ratio of building coverage to open space is similar, with slightly reduced landscape coverage for new development under MUN. But considering the size of the site and the location not being visible from 44th, it is unlikely to redevelop as a viable commercial use. A neighborhood meeting was held in September. One neighbor attended. They had no objections with the proposed rezoning and may even be interested in rezoning their property on Harlan. No one contacted city staff during the public noticing period prior to this hearing. No comments or concerns from the utility agencies and other departments that were sent on referral. If the zone change is approved and the buyer wants to use the property as a residence, then the applicant will need to be in touch with the building department in order to receive a residential certificate of occupancy and complete any work needed for a conversion back to a residence. As the commissioners are aware, we use several criteria to evaluate zone change requests, and primary among them is consistency with the comprehensive plan. Staff does believe that the proposed MUN zoning is consistent with the policies and goals in the city's comp plan, Envision Wheat Ridge. This image is an excerpt from the plan. The property is situated as a transitional property. 44th and Harlan is an intersection of a primary commercial corridor and a neighborhood commercial corridor. Because MUN allows a mix of uses, it is an appropriate transitional zone district from this area to the residential area further south on Harlan. This zoning would allow a residential use or a mixed-use live-work situation in addition to straight commercial uses. Staff has concluded that the request does meet the zone change criteria. A more extensive analysis is included in your staff reports, but I'll summarize the conclusions. The existing and proposed zone districts are comparable. Given that MUN will allow for similar commercial uses and also lower intensity residential uses, staff believes that the zone change will not have an adverse effect on public welfare. As I mentioned, staff finds the zone change to mixed-use neighborhood is supported by the comprehensive plan. Finally, the MUN zoning is compatible with the surrounding area, which already includes a mix of land uses. For these reasons, staff recommends approval. That concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Nice presentation. I'm going to start on this end. Commissioner Ohm,
No questions.
Commissioner Timms.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah.
I have a policy question. So, a couple months ago, right, we rezoned a property on Gray Street, and then we rezoned a property earlier on Harlan Street. What happens? Is the city okay with Harlan going residential potentially long term?
Harlan's an interesting mix of both residential and commercial, and I think we're okay with those sort of mixed zoning and uses as long as they're somewhat compatible with each other. You go a little bit further south and you have more houses, but then there's some commercial sprinkled in. So yes, we wouldn't have supported this if we hadn't thought that it was appropriate for the area.
There's a trend, because as home values keep going up, and these were all homes at one time, right, that have been converted, and if they're somewhat marginal in commercial uses, there may be a increased demand, right, to get a quasi-affordable home, and so I could just see that trend occurring. The other question is, what is the process? So it's been used last time as a spa, and according to the staff report, they potentially want to, applicants, and I can ask them, want to buy this and use it as a residence. Is there any land use process outside of the zoning needed? Meaning, right now, the whole front yard is paved, and I know we had this similar situation on the property on Gray Street, and I believe the applicant or the seller, I guess, landscaped it and made it look more residential. I know, now this is a little bit different because there's not room on the sides to, there's no garage and things like that, but I'm just wondering, is there a land use process or administrative site plan review or anything, if they want to use it residential, that would address all that paving in front, or not? No.
One of the things you might want to consider in light of the fact that there's no garage, there's no street parking allowed on Harlan, they're going to need a little bit more parking in front. As far as I'm aware of the property, the rear and the sides are totally landscaped. There's a swimming pool in the backyard. So they're, other than meeting any sort of requirements for the new CO, we would.
So staff's comfortable with the current condition in the front? Okay.
And there's a large mature tree in the front yard that's
Yes.
still there, and there is some improved streetscape there
Yes.
that was recently installed. I don't think I have a picture of that in the presentation, but there's a short brick wall that runs in front of the property sidewalk there.
Yeah, they improved Harlan.
Yeah, when they did a street state, right? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kimsey?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Dorsey?
Well, when it's, if the zoning is changed, it still could be a commercial property. So having driven by, it is a more commercial area. And so if they elected not to make a residential, it could revert back to commercial and then revert back to residential at any time, where now it can't be residential. That's why we're at this point. So it isn't really a question, it's just that we are allowing it to.
More options.
More options, right.
More options.
That's, okay, that's all I wanted to make a statement on.
Cool. Commissioner Buckman?
No questions. Good.
And no questions
Good
of
first
me.
report.
Yeah, good.
Thanks.
Yeah, good crisp report. Thank you. What, do you want us to give her heck? She missed a period. I saw that. Or a comma or two. How's that? Did the applicant have anything to say, or did you have a presentation, or did you? You don't have to. Okay. So first name, last name. Spell your last name, please. Raise the.
My name's Benjamin Kaplan, Kaplan. I don't have a. I'm sorry. Our
Any
current
address.
address, or
Any
so 4295 Harlan Street. I don't have anything formal to present. First of all, thank you to Sarah and everybody who's helped us with this process so far. The city of Wheat Ridge has been very accommodating and very helpful. As it was mentioned, we're, it's very much a house. Even when it was operating as a spa, it was still very much a house. And we discovered it months ago and fell in love with it, and ran into just one little roadblock, which was the zoning. We weren't allowed to live in it. So I think someone made the comment that we were looking to buy it and rezone it. We've actually already purchased it. So now we're just waiting for the rezoning so that we can live there. We're just really excited about it. We're excited to be residents of Wheat Ridge. We've lived in Northwest Denver and Westminster, and we love Wheat Ridge. Tonight actually made me fall in love with Wheat Ridge even more. It's really nice to see just the sense of community here, and Lauren and I just can't wait to live here, and hopefully the council commission will see fit to allow us to do that. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? I think you're free. You're good.
All right.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you. So, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak? I don't have anybody on the list. No? Are you sure? Last chance. Okay. Okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing portion, and I will ask for a motion,
I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I move to recommend approval of case number WZ-14-11, a request for approval of a zone change from restricted commercial to mixed-use neighborhood for property located at 4295 Harlan Street for the following reasons. The proposed zone change will not adversely impact the public health, safety, or welfare. The proposed zone change is consistent with the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan, and the proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area.
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Please vote.
Motion approved, 6-0.
Sweet. Okay, with that, welcome to Wheat Ridge. So, I'm looking for my, oh well, I lost it, but I guess now we are back to other. Are we on to other things? Yes, does anybody have any? I have another thing. So we've heard 3 of these cases, 4 of these cases. Is the city and the planning department ready? You're going to ask, so I'm ready for this.
I can answer that. So we've talked about it a little bit internally, and we have discussed an option. It would require going to City Council for study session because it would likely be a code amendment. But we think that a likely option would be to have an amendment that would allow in certain corridors that we would identify, or that Planning Commission and City Council would identify, for NC and RC zoned projects to have more of an administrative rezoning to MUN.
Oh, I was going to even go broader than that. I was going to do a mass rezoning.
That's what I was going to ask.
I was going to
City initiative.
Or change the zone. Just get rid of RC, and I mean, mass rezoning would be a lot more paperwork, a lot more touches to the homeowners, but a change to the zone, the RC, elimination, I mean, we've done it before, eliminate a zone.
And that would be something we'd have to look a little bit.
I know. I mean, it's actually money out of the Wheat Ridge coffers, because every one of these cases brings a certain amount, small, but it takes a lot of administrative work, presentation work, time for the applicant, and time, we're free, but everybody else, there's a cost involved. So either Sarah's suggestion, or a mass rezoning, or a change to the zoning, existing zoning, or eliminate one zoning and just kind of do a swap. I see no negatives to it. I mean, it gives options to the property owner. It doesn't take anything away, correct?
Just a couple things to consider is we would have to look at, how certain uses are dealt with in the different zone districts. For example, a drive-through in RC requires an SUP versus in the mixed-use neighborhood. I don't think it's allowed.
No, it's not.
At all. And so, I mean, those are the kinds of things we'd have to weigh. So,
setbacks and stuff, like front setbacks and stuff are different too. The front setbacks and stuff are different too, like the build to limits and stuff.
I would agree with the administrative is probably the least painful, but I would, as you construct that document, maybe leave a little bit of leeway that if you have the neighborhood meeting and you're getting some negativity, then they could go to the planning commission. But for the most part, it seems that there's not.
It's sort of like we have SUPs that can be approved administratively. You still have a neighborhood meeting. And then once that happens, they make application, and there's an administrative noticing process. If we receive legitimate complaints, then it goes to hearing. So that's sort of what I think you have in mind, Scott. So definitely we will be looking at that as an item to consider.
Cool. I'm glad we were in sync on that one, sort of. Any other business? So do we have a meeting?
This is the last meeting of the year.
Okay. Do we need to vote for? It's okay. No, it's all good. It's all fun. I'm kidding. I joke. Okay. Okay, and I have to say, it's very helpful to receive, thank you, Kim, it's helpful to receive that list. We get that list of upcoming, yeah,
Yeah, the upcoming cases. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's very helpful. We need, we need to have a motion, or we can stick around for hours.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
need
gonna-
a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Please vote.
6-0.
Okay, happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, happy Festivus.
Happy.
For the rest of us, Kwanzaa,
Well, it was nice to see everybody come out.
Confucianism. There's a Confucian, yeah.